Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun.
Manchakopatarubhyashta kripashendu bhaivacha patitanam pavanebo vaishnavebo namo namaha. Welcome. Online Bhakti Shastri course, Sri Upadeshamrita, lesson number 3. We're discussing text 4 of the Upadeshamrita, the 6 loving exchanges, translations and purports by ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshush Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharyane Nirvishesha Shannavari Prashtatade Shatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's begin by chanting the 4th verse of the Upadeshamrita. Tadati pradigranati guyam akyati prichati bhungte bhojayate chaiva sadvidham pritilakshanam. Dadati is giving gifts, pratigranati receiving gifts, Guyam, confidential, Akyati, explaining, and Prichati, inquiring. Guyam Akyati Prichati is inquiring confidentially. Bhungte, eating, and Bhojayate, feeding others. Krishna Prasadam, Sad Vidham Pritilakshana. These are the 6 exchanges of love amongst devotees. In his purport, Prabhupada is explaining, in the previous verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advised that one should renounce worldly association and keep company with the devotees. Sangat tyagat satobrite. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. Here in this picture, we can see the devotees on the Navadeep Mandal Parikrama engaging in some of the 6 loving exchanges. Kavi Chandra Swami Maharaj is giving bananas. Amiya Vilas Maharaj is accepting the coconut. The devotees are discussing Krishna consciousness and they're hearing. In this way, they're enjoying devotional association and they're enjoying exchange of love with each other. Of course, the principle of Dadati Pritigrinati is very commonly demonstrated and performed in the Krishna consciousness movement. Devotees often, upon visiting the holy dham, may return and give some gifts to other devotees, and in that way share love. And when the devotees offer us gifts, then we receive those gifts very enthusiastically, very graciously. In this way we're exchanging love and affection. Guyam Akiti Prichati, confidential topics explaining and inquiring, also we can see facilitated regularly in the Krishna consciousness movement. On occasion we may experience challenges in revealing our mind in confidence because we may not find devotees with whom we can trust to be able to reveal our confidential concerns. Or we may find that have experiences of revealing our minds in confidence to a devotee, and then subsequently a devotee broke confidence, or perhaps a devotee in the management took advantage of our circumstances and dealt with us in a manipulative way. In this way, oftentimes we may see examples that devotees are a little hesitant to reveal their mind in confidence with other devotees. And for this reason, we can see how important it is that those devotees who are preaching and in leadership position become very qualified as counselors to be able to act as a shelter of the devotees And these principles of confidentiality, of course, very important. We can take training, actually, in ISKCON. Recently, Ikshvaku Prabhu from the Congregational Ministry has developed a very wonderful Krishna Conscious counseling course with professional counseling principles and skills. The course involves training in this area, and in this way devotees can actually become very qualified and trained on how to effectively counsel other devotees. Of course, confidentiality is a very important principle in counseling. An effective counselor in Krishna consciousness requires foundational listening skills. We have a tendency in devotional association, when it comes to counseling, we have a tendency to very quickly advise devotees, give advice from Shastra, encourage them to improve their sadhana, attend the program, enhance their practice of devotional life. We may very quickly give this type of advice without actually taking the time to thoroughly listen to the devotee and completely understand, empathize with that devotee and understand their circumstances. So this empathic listening and other listening skills are very essential in counseling, so that the devotee can feel that the counselee fully understands my situation and circumstances and can empathize with me. And in that way, we're able to trust and we're able to take the advice that the devotee gives. So in this way, we can actually provide counseling for preachers and leaders in Krishna consciousness to become effective listeners. And in that way, we could see that the practice of the Guhyam Akirti principle can become more effectively performed in ISKCON. In that way, we can align ourselves more closely with these instructions of Srila Rupa Goswami. As Srila Prabhupada comments in his purport, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. This is essentially what ISKCON is all about. This is why Prabhupada established a society, a worldwide society. This is why Mahaprabhu has predicted that there will be a center of Krishna consciousness in every town and village, so that we can exchange in this way, we can interact in this way with each other, and in that way we can align ourselves with the teachings of Rupa Goswami, and in that way we can together in a very wonderful Paramahansa society, we can help each other in Krishna consciousness. And these are the methods in which we can do that. Srila Prabhupada, in his purport to text 4 of Ubadeshamrita, quotes from the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Saddha Kabu Noi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koraya Udoi. Love of Godhead is Krishna Prema, is eternally situated in the heart of the living entity. And Saddha Kabu Noi. It's not that one day you will get Krishna consciousness. Actually, Krishna consciousness is already there in the heart, but it has become covered over by our materialistic contamination. Shravanadi, principally through hearing. Shravanadi, fundamentally through hearing, beginning through hearing, and fundamentally by hearing, on the foundation of hearing. Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitte. One's chitta, one's consciousness, one's heart becomes pure, becomes purified. Kuraya udoi. And then there is udoi, there is a natural arising, an awakening of love of Godhead, which is eternally dormant in the heart of the living entity. Prabhupada's commenting that this awakening of love of Godhead in the heart of all living entities can be facilitated by preaching Krishna consciousness, through providing these 6 types of interactions with people in general. Srila Prabhupada explains that book distribution and preaching in general is an example of the Dadati Pratigrinati principle, that we are giving the transcendental literatures and the recipients are invited to give donations, which we are receiving. They are receiving the transcendental literatures. There is question and answer, there is discussion, that is Guhyam Akirti Prichati, when we're cultivating new members to Krishna consciousness. Of course, there is Bhunte Bhojayate in every Krishna conscious program, the distribution of prasadam and the receiving of prasadam. And in this way, by facilitating the 6 loving exchanges, we are spreading Krishna consciousness. Fundamentally, preaching means providing, facilitating the 6 loving exchanges with people in general. And as a result of this affectionate interaction with the Vaishnavas, they'll become purified and they can advance in Krishna consciousness. In his commentary on the Upadeshamrita, Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, exchanging love with devotees who are of the same aspiration as oneself and who are affectionate to oneself enhances one's bhakti. Our understanding of this comment, devotees who are of the same aspiration as oneself, means devotees who are in ISKCON, who are committed to following the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and spreading Krishna consciousness in the manner that Srila Prabhupada has given us through the Krishna consciousness movement. So the devotees who are involved in the Krishna consciousness movement in our ISKCON societies, we consider to be of the same aspiration as oneself. In addition to that, we need not further establish any type of groupism or elitism type mentality that within ISKCON there are certain types of devotees or certain types of people who I consider to have the same aspiration as myself, those who are doing the same service as me, or perhaps those who are initiated by the same Diksha Guru as me, and consider that I should exclusively interact with those devotees in my devotional association. This is a misunderstanding. Everyone in ISKCON, all devotees have the same mood of Srila Prabhupada, of spreading Krishna consciousness, and by associating with all the devotees in ISKCON, our own bhakti becomes enhanced. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur continues that offering and accepting items, revealing confidential realizations to one another, and serving and accepting food are all activities that increase affection. One should not perform these activities with those of different aspirations in life than one's own. Prabhupada explains further, if a snake is given milk to drink, its poison simply increases. For similar reason, we should not disclose our mind to the serpent Mayavadis and Karmis. It is best to avoid association with them completely and never ask them about anything confidential because they cannot give good advice. Nor should we extend invitations to the Mayavadis and atheists, nor accept their invitations. For such intimate intermingling, we may become affected by their atheistic mentality, Sangat Sanjayate Karma. Of course, in general, our broad preaching activities are performed in an indiscriminate way. We'll go on Harinam Sankirtan on the street, we have a Ratha Yatra procession on the street, and there's indiscriminately we are associating, we are sharing Krishna consciousness. In general, this is how we preach. In the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's transcendental literature, also we don't have a discriminatory type mentality. Basically everybody we will see when we're approaching them for book distribution will be either atheistically inclined or impersonalistically inclined or some other type of misconception. But we're not actually, as Prabhupada mentions here, we are not intimately associating with that person, but we are officially associating with that person, and we are actually we are giving them our association and giving them Prabhupada's association. So what should be avoided is the intimate association with such people. If we live with them, if we eat with them, if we accept their food, if we if we develop very, very intimate relationships with such people, then that can have a detrimental effect on our development of bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has warned, Vishayira anna koile dushta hoymon. By eating food prepared by worldly people, one's mind becomes wicked. Particularly anna, grains. Vishayir means a sense enjoyer. So the dushta hoyman, the mind becomes wicked. As a result of eating food which is cooked by non-devotees, we may become overwhelmed by material desire. Actually, as much as possible, the devotee should take Krishna Prasadam, which is prepared in a very devotional environment, at home, by devotees, with the intention of offering it to Krishna to satisfy Krishna. Eating such prasadam it will enliven one in Krishna consciousness. But if we eat the outside food, either packaged food from the supermarkets, or if we visit the restaurants, even vegetarian restaurants of non-devotees, we could be contaminated because such people that are preparing the food have no devotional inclination They are preparing the food because of the money that they will get and the enjoyment that they will have. In this way, their consciousness is very much materialistic, and their consciousness is imbued in the food that they are preparing and handling. And in this way, a serious devotee should try to avoid as much as possible eating food which is prepared by non-devotees. Of course, there may be occasion if we're traveling and long distances and we're unable to get prasadam, then we have to eat to sustain our life. You can take the food from outside if it's a vegetarian restaurant, and you can offer that to Krishna. But these are extraordinary circumstances that should not become the regular habit of the devotee. Similarly, Prabhupada is explaining in regard to receiving gifts from the materialists. There is a danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money. For as soon as he spends even a single cent of the collection for his personal sense gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. If one utilizes the contributions that he accepts on behalf of the Krishna consciousness movement, if he utilizes them for his own sense gratification, then he will become contaminated with the karmic reactions and sinful reactions which is contained in that money as it may have been acquired through sinful or materialistic means. Unless that money is placed at the lotus feet of Krishna or his representative, for when that contribution is in its entirety is placed before the lotus feet of Krishna or his representative, then all of that contamination becomes purified. So if one is representing the Krishna consciousness movement and collecting donations or any types of gifts, these should be strictly utilized for the service of the Lord, and one should be very careful to ensure that. Similarly, Prabhupada comments regarding the Dadati principle. According to the Dadati principle, an advanced devotee is supposed to spend at least 50% of his income for the service of the Lord and his devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami has set such an example in his own life. This example should be followed by all devotees. Whatever one's income, 50% should be spent on behalf of Krishna and his devotees. So we have so many wonderful projects in Krishna consciousness movement which we can contribute to. We encourage the members to contribute as much as possible. And also one may contribute toward one's own preaching. If one is preaching in one's home, and the costs that are incurred for preaching in preaching from one's own home, also contributing to that would be the Dadati principle. And in this way, as much as possible, it's very much encouraged that the devotees in the congregation who are earning to contribute as much as possible of their earnings to spreading the Krishna consciousness. In this way, their whole activity of earning and making a livelihood becomes purified. In his overview of the Upadeshamrita, Thakur Bhaktivinoda explains text 1 as being symptoms of a Madhyam Adhikari, text 2 to 4 being the external devotional practices of a Madhyam Adhikari, avoiding the 6 detrimental activities and cultivating the 6 favorable activities, and the 6 loving exchanges. In fact, there's a very beautiful song by Thakur Bhaktivinoda, Vaishnav Thakur, in which he explains Chaya Bega Domi. You please purify me from the 6 bags, the 6 pushings. Chaya Dosha Shoti. You purify me from the 6 contaminatory activities, dosha. And Chaya Guna Dehodasa, you bestow upon me the 6 good qualities. Chaya Guna Dehodasa. Chaya Shata Shanga. You bestow upon me the 6 types of loving exchanges. And in this way, Thakur Bhaktivinoda is explaining that these verses are dealing with the external activities, devotional practices of a Madhyam Adhikari. Texts 5 and 8, which we'll be looking at in the subsequent lessons, dealing with the internal vision of the Madhyam Adhikari, and texts 9 to 11 are dealing with the order of worshipable places. In this way, Thakur Bhaktivinoda has analyzed the Upadeshamrita. So Prabhupada concludes his purport to text 4 of Upadeshamrita. The conclusion is that we should always keep company with devotees, observe the regulative devotional principles, follow in the footsteps of the acharyas, and in full obedience carry out the orders of the spiritual master. In this way, we shall be able to develop our devotional service and dormant Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki.